Hey, this is Empress Zinga, and this month's featured for Artist Peeps is Fitzroy. You probably know him from a long time ago, musician, filmmaker. Like, he has been doing a lot now in Miami. You're now with Third Horizon, I believe, your film company. What's going on?
I am good. I'm happy to be home for the holidays. One more week, unfortunately. I'm dreading it. I'm counting down the days.
Man, you can always come back.
Well, I try to be here as much as possible. It's hard, but home is home.
Well, my first thing is no. You have been doing some music way back when, and usually when people remember Jason Fitzroy, they're like, oh, that's you do, but he lots that sing and like real eclectic and was with Pounders and that sort of vibe and thing. Why you decided to go into music at that time?
Well, I started off MCing years ago when I was a teenager. And you mentioned Pounders. I was actually with Pounders, but very much inspired by them. There were a lot of hip hop crews out at the time. It was, in the late 90s, there was this surge of local hip hop being played on the radio and groups coming together. There was Pounders, there was there was KB, Sharp, and Ruby there was just something happening, and that was my that was just before I left Barbados, actually, to go to University of Miami. So that was my start in doing music. At the time it was just hip hop. I went abroad, was studying, and the music that I was doing started to evolve, and I started singing and adding live instrumentation and whatnot. So then I think it was maybe like 2004, I came back to Barbados for an extended stay. I was working a remote job at the time because I also work as a writer, and I was able to record an album called Paradise Low at my friend Strat Carter's. Yeah. We had a group back in the day called Chaotic Tendencies, so we've remained in touch over the years, and every time I'm down here I shout him, and sometimes we work together. So out of that that particular trip I recorded that album, filmed some music videos with Selwyn Brown, and so I think that's the period which you're so that was, and it was around that time that I started meeting y'all and a whole bunch of people that I hadn't connected with before, because being away I had kind of lost track about what was happening here in the artistic community. I figured I would put out this album on my own, so I started my own independent record label at the time, which was called Third Horizon. The music thing was great. I was performing quite a bit in Miami, some spot dates in the US, but at a certain point in time it just kind of I'm a very restless person. My attention went elsewhere, and I got deeper into my writing work, and got into writing books for people and all kinds of and so then I pretty much put my artistic life on hold, and then several years later I started gradually getting into filmmaking and decided that I should resurrect the Third Horizon imprint to be a production company, and so now it's also the means through which we stage Third Horizon Film Festival in Miami, which focuses on Caribbean film. The idea is that Third Horizon has always been this, and we're still in our infancy, but the idea is that it's a home for eclectic Caribbean artistry. The album was the first project, and then years later, the one that really kind of took things to the next level was a short film we produced called Papa Machete, which went to Toronto International Film Festival and Sundance and some other major film festivals. So we're kind of building on the success of that film through the festival and through other films that we're working on now.
Now you keep mentioning Third Horizon and how that has been a part of you. You mentioned it via music, then you transition to a label, then it transitions now into your film company. Why is the name Third Horizon so important to you?
Third Horizon, I don't even remember when it first came to me, but I remember being a little boy watching, at the time, I believe the CBC Evening News was it World Scene or News Scene? Yes. World Scene, right?
Yeah.
I remember watching World Scene and always hearing Barbados and the Caribbean referred to as, well, I just remember the use of the term third world. Even then, it didn't sit right with me. even then I would say to myself, wait, but so we're less than, we're not, we're not as important as, or we're somehow. And as I got older and started to examine relationships of colonialism and imperialism, and just kind of where we are positioned on the world stage and whatnot, I came to realize like how much of a contribution the Caribbean and other countries, the older I got, the more I started thinking about these relationships and how we contribute so much to the world in terms of ideas, in terms of culture, and yet it feels as if we are lower down on the totem pole in terms of receiving the
reparations. Say it, fam. Just say reparations. I will you.
There we go. So Third Horizon was kind of born out of this idea that we see so many problems in the world, and it's a lofty idea, but the Third Horizon as a place, as an idea, represents to me this moment when the work and the creativity of those within this space, whatever you call it, receive the support and the backing and the understanding and the exhibition that they really deserve on the same level as whatever you see in the quote unquote first world. Just one example. Dub Echoes is this great documentary about how dub not what we call dub here, but dub in Jamaica, the instrumental sides of the reggae and dancehall recordings, which are then manipulated with echo and whatnot. It shows how those techniques that were pioneered by the producers of that music led to the creation of EDM and all of these different forms of music that are dominating the world today. The techniques and the technology can be traced back to people working with modified equipment in thrown together studios in Jamaica, and that's a story that you hear time and time again, like that relationship. So the question is then, how do we not wait until 20 years in the future and look back and say, oh well, that person was very influential and that style of whatever they were doing went on to influence such and such and blah 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 and blah blah blah. How do you bring that support to those people now? How do you give them a stage now? How do you highlight and showcase their work, And so that's the long game of Third Horizon. So right now our focus is film. Right now we want to shine a spotlight on filmmakers around the Caribbean and its diaspora who are doing work that deserves more attention. Because when we did Papa Machete, we went to some of the biggest festivals in the world and we noticed we're the only Caribbean people here. So what do we have to do to get things to a point where there are more of us here? Because we have amazing stories to tell.
They got enough artists out here that be like, I going to America, Barbados is bare nonsense, and I going overseas to go and do what I gotta do because I can get more support over there. Is it worth it at all to go to Miami at all? Or anywhere for that matter?
I think once upon a time there was definitely, certainly when I left. I went to go to do a journalism degree. Although if you'd asked me at the time, no, I'm really going to get my music career popping, I can blow up, and the thoughts of a young man. Person. Yeah. Not discouraging anybody's dreams, but I was a lot more naive about how the whole process would unfold. I certainly don't think that it's as necessary now as it was then, if it's even necessary at all. The internet has made things such that you now have a platform that didn't exist before. Just in the last few years, I've discovered so many Caribbean musicians and filmmakers and artists that would have taken me so much longer to even find out about, if I ever found out about them at all, just because of the internet. You can connect through social media, and it's not that much to put up a website these days. The most important thing, I think, is cultivating your authenticity. I remember maybe when I was I was probably 16 years old at the time, and I used to listen to Stotely Murray had a show called Rap Jams on 98.1. Back then it was not the one, it was Liberty. Is it still the one? So Liberty back in the day, Stotely Murray had this show called Rap Jams that used to be 10 p.m. on Saturday nights. Yeah. Yes. Because it was hard to hear hip hop in Barbados at the time, especially local stuff. Some of us used to go, my first group that I was in with Strat Carter that I mentioned earlier, we used to go into town, stand up in town on Saturday mornings with a petition and get people to sign this petition to get our music on the radio.
How was that? Were people receptive of signing up to Bajan artists being on the radio?
Yeah.
Really? At that time?
I think we were pretty charming. I mean, of course, some people looked at us like we were crazy. They're like, this is not.
That's why I'm saying, like, especially things with like rap. I'm not a musician, but when people hear rap, they think America, they think Bronx, they think New York.
Back then, there were people who looked at us, like this makes no sense. But anyway, but it was successful, I mean, and all of which is to say, before things got to that point, there was one person who was supporting local hip hop, and that was Stokely Murray on Liberty with his show Rap Jams. And I remember one night I used to tape the show religiously every week.
You doing something illegal there, Fitzroy? You get locked up. It's on camera. You're doing things illegal.
Come and get me. Anyway, long story short, I remember one week hearing this song by Grassroots, which was the, you mentioned Pounders. Pounders stemmed from Grassroots. Grassroots was the original group and had in, oh my God, so many MCs. And the last verse on the song was Big Wizard. And everybody on the song, you could tell they were Bajan, but when Big Wizard came on, rough, Bajan as hell, and you were like, when I tell you, like, there's certain moments in your life that change your thinking, and hearing that, I'm like, I wouldn't be where I am now were it not for that moment. Wow. Because all of a sudden it was, here's somebody in the art form that I'm aspiring to have a place in, or dreaming of having. I didn't even have aspirations at that point. I was dreaming. I was 16 years old, right? I was supposed to be wearing both my CSCs, right? But to hear somebody, a rapper, rapping that defiantly and forcefully in a Bajan accent was so powerful and made me think entirely differently about what it meant to be a Caribbean artist and how you could stand within this art form, which is so distinctly American, although all of the original founders, or most of the original founders of hip-hop, are of Caribbean parentage. So that's another topic. That's another
topic. Amongst the pigeons, no.
That's a whole nother conversation. It inspired me so much. I think that having an authenticity in your craft, offering the international marketplace something different that really stems from who you are and gives them a sense of place, like, that's so important. Give the audience a sense of place and a sense of who you are.
So what is it then? Because you said that pivotal moment, you were 16. We are older now. We are branching off into different interests, but still within the arts. But there's still a resistance in terms of, I can't sing in my Bajan accent. When you hear soca people, they sing Trini. When people sing in dance hall, you're singing Jamaican, and so on and so on. You're singing rap, you sing American. And then on the flip side, when you do try to sing Bajan, for those who are singing Bajan, it is crude, it is lawless, it is not something that we should be proud of to be put on air. Like Bashment Soca, for instance, like, what was, like, you can't say A, you can't say B. Like with Sheena in our last interview, she was saying how Bajans are very contradictory, and it's true. You want to be singing in a certain voice or presenting something in a certain voice, but at the same time it's not good enough, so let me just keep what we doing. Like,
no, I think maybe we have some national self-esteem issues.
Maybe.
I think Barbados does have some things to, and it's always tricky for me to talk about this because I feel a hesitation speaking on this topic because I'm somebody who made the decision to go overseas and because I live abroad. But that said, I am a Bajan. But it's very clear. I mean, we do have national pride, yes, we do. But we have to be a bit more active in loving ourselves.
I agree.
Because as you said, you know, reggae music is one of Jamaica's biggest exports. That is distinctly Jamaican. You know, you hear it, you hear the accent. You have people copying that accent all over the world, right? I mean, I remember being in Thailand. I went to Thailand, in 2009, and I still had locks all down to my knees at the time. And I'm in the countryside of Thailand, and like little villages, right? And there are stalls at the side of the road where you could go and get fake locks like stitched into your hair, and people seeing me and they're like, oh, yeah man, blah 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 blah. And I'm like, I'm in Thailand in the countryside, and these people who don't even speak English are speaking
Want to touch up you here?
and trying to speak to me in a Jamaican accent. There's currency in that. Why don't we trust in the currency of our ideas and who we are, our character, our spirit, our accent, our, you know? Why is this not more embraced within the arts? I feel like every time I come home I'm hearing about, well, you know, if you're making a pepper sauce or a mobby, you gotta make sure your label is correct for international export and this and that and blah blah blah, and there's so much emphasis placed on our products and making sure that they work out there. But then how come there isn't that
urgency
and urgency around the arts, and that the artists are being left to figure it out for themselves, which they're doing. I mean, I come home, every time I come home I'm amazed, especially on this trip, I'm amazed at just the art that is, you know, the great bands that are coming together, the great musicians and poets and filmmakers and visual artists, and, you know, I mean, you know, you, Sheena, and I had this conversation many times. You know, it's frustrating.
So now it is 2018. What does Fitzroy have in store for this year?
Well, my work with Third Horizon continues. We will very soon be announcing the dates for this year's festival and launching our call for submissions, and looking forward to receiving a lot of, you know, hopefully we'll get a lot of Bajan submissions. I would love to be able to show.
That would be so good. That would be so good. You got Hall, you have Shakira stuff. Oh my god, that would be so awesome. The Horizon and Bajan thing.
We had, you know, I mean, we've showed Bajan work before, and of course we showed Sheena Rose at the first edition of our festival. It's, you know, it's hard because I have to be very careful. You know, I don't do the selection myself. We have a committee that does everything. So of course I want to see a lot of Bajan stuff up in there, but we have to represent the entire Caribbean, so it's always a delicate process to make sure that you're not leaning in favor of any one island. But I would love to see a lot of Bajan stuff. We'll be announcing those dates soon. I myself, you know, I'm working on some script writing, and hopefully I will be filming something here this year. We'll see.
Nice.
Yeah.
That means he came back slowly but surely.
Yeah, so that's it. I mean, I'm working on a podcast called Foggy Windows, which is indulging my love of old school R&B and discussing topics related to love. That's like a personal project of mine outside of the scope of Third Horizon. Yeah, we hope to be, you know, one of my partners in Third Horizon, Keisha Ray with a Spoon. She just finished filming a project a few months ago that we will be finished with soon and sending out to various festivals and whatnot. So yeah, the festival and more films, making more films.
Okay, so I have one more question. What is it that you, Jason, want to be remembered for, or what is it that you want to leave behind?
You know, I haven't really thought much about that. I mean, I try to live in the present as much as possible. You know, I find myself doing a balancing act of working on my own creative work and then trying to create pathways as well for other artists and creatives. And if anything, I would like it to be that I was a conduit, that anything that I was able to do for myself, I was able to do for others, you know, and that I gave as much as I received.
Guys, this has been our GineOn Artist Peeps with Jason Fitzroy. You can still go back online and go and check out the old songs and think, aye, let's still go and check them out. Don't be ashamed, it was good, otherwise we'll be checking them out. Go and check out Third Horizon, where you guys are on social media.
You can find us on Instagram and Twitter at THRDHRZN, Third Horizon without the vowels. And you can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Third Horizon Film Festival. And we have two websites, thirdhorizonfilmfestival.com and thirdhorizonmedia.com.
Sweet! So you can send all of the stuff to those social platforms when you're ready to send in all of your films. Hoping to see some awesome Bajan films this year once again. I am Empress Zinga. Don't forget, you gotta go and subscribe. GineOn.com. We got some cool things going on. Wanna check out your website yet? We worked really hard. It looked really good for 2018. It looked hot. It looked hot. But then the website looked hot. Like, obviously. See you when I soon here. We gone.